Welcome to the Confident Dollar Podcast, where we are seeking to bring confidence and organization to your financial life. Welcome to the Confident Dollar Podcast. If you are new, this is your first time listening, I am so glad you're here and so glad you found us. Welcome. I hope that you enjoy listening to this episode and also check out the other episodes. The Confident Dollar Podcast's entire goal is to bring confidence and organization to people's financial life. And so we are one at a time tackling big financial topics, always in language that you can understand, not that financial jargon, and really just want to be able to bring that confidence to your financial life so you know what you're doing, you know how your money's being or is managed, or you know what step you're working on, all of those things. If you are a listener that is back again, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for the love and support. I also hope that you go and subscribe to the podcast and leave a 5-star review. That is a easy, helpful way that you can help get this podcast out to more ears and just share the love. And it doesn't cost you anything, just a quick second of your time. So I really appreciate if you would take the time to do that if you are a reoccurring listener. So yes, welcome. Today we are talking about steps to building financial confidence. So we're kind of backing it up a little bit. We take it normally we take it kind of one topic at a time in these. Today, I'm just going to give you a rundown of what my steps are that I walk clients through. Everybody who talks about finances in this way kind of have their steps, their priorities that they, go through. Basically, you've heard of the Dave Ramsey baby steps, I'm sure. So this is a little spin on those. I did change a few things up that don't align fully with that, but those are, good foundation as well. But we're going to walk through the steps to financial confidence so that you can kind of know if you have you haven't managed your money really well at all at this point and you're kind of all over the place and you don't really know what's going on. Here's what I would tell you: where to start and what to do one by one. Okay. So let's get into that. If you have no idea what's happening with your money, you don't do any, tracking of anything, you're in debt, you have not really paid attention to your finances one bit, the very first thing you need to do, which no one really ever wants to hear because it is the very least thing that anybody wants to do when it comes to their finances, is you need to know your budget and your cash flow. If you could not answer this question of, if I asked you how much you made, can you answer that question monthly? And then if I ask you how much do you spend every month, can you answer that question? I don't mean to guess, I mean how much do you actually spend every month? If you cannot answer that, then you need to work on your budget and your cash flow, because that is the foundation to your financial success with your finances. So you have to know that information. So you're going to have to start there. You can go back to episodes 1 and episodes 18. Both of those are budgeting episodes, talk about how to budget and then categorizing spending within your budget in episode 18. So those will both be helpful for you if you have not budgeted and you do not know your cash flow. That is where you need to start. Okay, so once you get that situated, you've got your budget under control, you know how much you're making, you know how much you're spending, you know how much you have to save towards your goals. The next step that I want you to take, that you need to assess, is, do you have an emergency fund? If you do not have any emergency fund, this is absolutely step number 2, in my opinion. And I do think it comes a portion of your emergency fund, saving a portion of your emergency fund comes before debt payoff. Because if you don't have that set aside and something happens, like you lose your job or an emergency happens in your family, you are going to have to go to more into debt than you already currently are if you don't have that emergency fund. So all I'm asking is that you save 3 months of living expenses in your emergency fund first. You don't need to go beyond that yet, but I think 3 months is a really helpful number. So again, you need to know your living expenses, which means you need to know your budget from that first step in order to know what that number is. But work really hard and get as much as you can towards your goal amount of your budget, that bucket, towards your emergency fund, okay? And get 3 months worth of emergency fund set aside in a savings account, ready to go in case of an emergency. That's step number 2. Once you have that set, step number 3 is you're going to start your debt payoff. So if you have debt, you're going to start debt payoff. You can go back to episode 24 called Crushing Debt, where I give a lot more insight and details on how I would recommend paying off debt. But debt payoff is going to have you prioritize your debts. You're going to look at interest rates, you're going to look at amounts, you're going to look at the type of debt. And that's how you're going to basically prioritize your debt to know what debt you're looking to pay off. If you do not have debt outside of a mortgage, you can skip this step because I don't really recommend paying off a mortgage early in most cases, unless you're getting really close to retirement, and then which you may need to speed up your payment. But if you're young and you have plenty of time until retirement, don't worry about paying off the mortgage. If that is your only debt, go ahead and skip that step. We're not counting that as debt in this situation. Okay. So the debt you're going to focus on first in this debt payoff is your high interest rate debt, which is going to be anything over really 6 or 7%. Because if you invest that, you can make more money in the market if it's anything lower than that. So we're really going to focus on those higher amounts. Again, that episode 24 will break it down much clearer. But once you get rid of your high interest debt, and you only have maybe some low interest debt that you still want to get out of, maybe it's an auto loan or some student loans that you still want to get out of, you are going to work towards a balance of debt and investing. And the reason I have you do this is because if you have a high amount of student loans, yes, we want to get out of those as quick as possible. I'm not saying you don't, but if it's going to take some time and your interest rate is not overly high, then it makes more sense to have a balanced lifestyle of still investing because you can make more money in the market and you need to get that going and you need to get that started for your long-term goals, especially retirement, and balancing your debt payoff. So let's just go over again real quick where we're at. You've budgeted and you know your cash flow. You've saved 3 months of emergency fund. Step number 3 is you've paid off your high interest debt. Step number 4 is you're splitting your low interest debt with investing. Okay. Step number 5, once you finish off that low interest debt, you're investing. I want you to finish up that emergency fund. So you may be fine at 3 months, but there's a lot of cases in which that's not comfortably, that's just not enough for you. Or maybe if you're an entrepreneur or you're commission based, you may want to bump that up. So if that's something you want to bump up, then at this point, I would bump that up to the 6-month stage once you're out of debt. So now you're, again, besides that mortgage, but if you're out of debt, you can now bump up your emergency fund while you're still investing. And then that last step you're going to do is you're just going to invest. So you have your emergency fund fully set, and now you're investing fully. And you want to get this about, I would say, about 20% of your income you want to save towards these goals, this goal bucket. So that 20% is going to be broken up over each of these steps. Sometimes it's your emergency fund, then it's your debt payoff, then it's your debt payoff and investing, then it's your emergency fund and investing. And now it's just investing. You'd want to start saving about 20% of your income. Okay. That's kind of the overview of the steps that I help clients walk through and how I would recommend getting your finances under control if you do not have that currently. Now, you might be someone that doesn't like that scenario. You'd rather do like Dave Ramsey's baby steps, and that's totally fine. Find one that you really relate to the most and do that one, because your success is more important than getting caught up on which one you want to do first, or why does this person recommend this and this person recommends this. We all have our reasons, but the reality is you have to do one that makes the most sense for you and the one that you relate to the most. So that's okay. Use someone else's steps if that makes more sense for you. But I wanted to just give the overview of what my financial steps to confidence are, in case that was helpful for someone as you guys are getting your finances under control and figuring out what should I be working on right now. Now, in the midst of those, a lot of times I do get asked, okay, what about saving for a home down payment? And I would say that's kind of after and right around like you're definitely out of high interest debt. I would say you're probably out of debt for the most part. And so maybe instead of the debt plus investing, you're doing your debt plus down payment. And then maybe you're doing your down payment plus investing for that step number 5, but you could work that in there in that time frame. But I would really recommend getting out of any high interest debt before you start trying to save for a home down payment, because you're just losing so much money, especially credit card debt. The interest that you're paying on all of that is terribly high. And so you need to get out of that first and get your finances fully under control and fully in a much healthier situation before you even think about buying a house anyways. So that's what I would recommend there. So good luck as you start working through the financial confidence steps. And I hope that's helpful for you. We'll see you next time. Lauren Gage is a registered representative with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal.